Today on the Tim Marner podcast show, we've got Holly Matthews, a life coach, NLP practitioner, and professionally trained former television actor. A professionally trained... In fact, no, let me start this off. I'm going to put that there.
Professionally trained makes it sound...
I read somewhere that Holly Matthews, has never seen Game of Thrones. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Am I going to get in trouble? I don't
know why you're on the podcast, I'm going to be honest with you.
I've never seen that. I've not read Harry Potter. I've not seen a Bond. I'm not going to be told what to do, so people can sell it to me and I'll do it if I want to in my own time.
You've not read Harry Potter, but you watched Harry Potter?
I caught one bit, I didn't think I was into it. Is that bad?
I don't know, is that your mind not allowing you to sit there for 2 hours?
No, I don't. It's something.
Your kids know this, don't they, that you don't like Harry Potter?
Yeah, my kids aren't that fussed. I did try, I'm not like, you can't watch Harry Potter, but I'm just no, they can do what they want, but I don't really, which is weird for a creative person, I'm not really into like fantasy stuff. Like, it's all a bit, I don't know. I'm not into it. And then, no, right, shall I just leave? I can feel this.
No, it's all right. I just like, if there's a reason, a meaning behind it, I'll get on board with it.
It's just not piqued my interest. Like, it just hasn't. I can see the phenomenon around it. I can see people love it. And I can see actually lots of good that it does for people, in terms of like people who've felt the outsider. I can see why but I was probably a little bit all for it. And then I just didn't really get into it. Not a genre that hooked me in. And at the minute that someone goes, you've got to do something, my brain has a defiance that goes, I'll do it in my own time if I want to. You won't tell me what to do. So I do think there's a bit of that in it as well. But yeah, the more people go, you've got to do something, the more I'm like, well, I'll decide if I want to do it. So maybe that sits in that. Maybe it's a defiance.
What was little Holly like? Was little Holly always like that?
I think I always did things in my own way, yeah. I was definitely a weird kid. Like, I think like a lot of girls, I wanted to be the good girl. Like, I wanted to be, like, I didn't want to be in trouble when I was really little, but I was always a weird kid. Like, if we look back, I was just lucky that my parents let me be. Like, they were like, she's creative, she wants to be doing nothing, whatever. She's been sat there for, it was the 90s, wasn't it? So parents just let their kids, whatever, feral. So I was just like, I'd be like drawing and writing and singing and recording myself and performing for like hours at a time. And everyone was like, yeah, that sound fine. And then when I was 11, I got a professional TV job. And so people were like, oh yeah, that's her thing. She's one of them like actor ones. So that's why she's a bit unusual. But I was lucky. I think that's one thing, I try to instill in my kids. Like, just be yourself, like be whatever that is. You don't have to be me, Mark II. Just be yourself and be your weirdest self. And I was, looking back, really lucky that I found what I liked early on. Because I don't know how I would have been otherwise. I think I'd have really struggled in school. But I had a lot of time off school. So, yeah, I can't remember if I was... I don't think I was defiant as in, like, naughty, I don't think I was that. But I definitely did things in my own way. And it was only when it was, I guess, secondary school when people start to go, it's a bit weird.
What do you mean you had time off school? What do you mean by that?
So I would be filming 6 months of the year.
Doing what?
So I did a show called Biker Grove, which some people will remember.
Yeah, Biker Grove. Who started? Was it not Ant and Dec?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah, actually a lot of Donna Ant and Dec, any Geordie actor of like my age or a little bit older, if they didn't do Biker Grove, you're questioning what's happening here. What's gone on? They've all gone through it. But I started that when I was 11, wrote a letter to the casting people I shouldn't say this in a branding agency, but I wrote it in Comic Sans.
Nice.
The font.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Well, at the time it was fancy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We only had about 4 fonts.
There was a fraction in time where you could use it.
It seemed fun, so I used Comic Sans.
Yeah.
And I wrote this letter and it said, my name's Holly, I'm an actress. And then my hair is brown, I'd done that in brown. My eyes are green, done that in green. And then I put, I'm not shy one bit, just to let them know. Yeah. I want to be an actress. And then at the very bottom, I just put, P.S. please write back soon. And then they got me in for an audition. And then I did about 6 auditions, didn't get the part. But I was buzzing. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was on a TV set. Like, then it's doable, right? It wasn't a failure in my eyes. I didn't get it. It was, then it's doable because I got that far. And then 6 months later, they wrote a part in for me and I started in the show. And so for 6 months of the year, I would be in and out of school for like my whole of my school until I think I left when I was 17.
So do you think that at that moment you found your thing, you were going to
Yeah.
be an actress for the...
Yeah. I mean, I knew when I was younger than that. I used to go to this drama group, local drama group, which hilariously now, I remember the other day, the name was Sit and Fidget, which is hilarious, like knowing me now. And went there and I remember like, I can be quite obsessional when I like something. Like I'm all in if I like something or people, I'm all in. And so I wanted to be an actor and I don't know where I must have read it because let's be real, we didn't have the internet really. And I heard people went to drama school and I heard RADA was like the main one. I must have heard it somewhere. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to RADA. So I was 7 or 8. And if you spoke to me, I'd say, I'm going to RADA, I'm going to drama school, I'm going to be an actor. And I used to go to like, you know, if you went to like Planet Hollywood or play, like any of them places, I used to write on the napkin, my name is Holly, and I put my home phone number. I'd write that down in case like Spielberg was there and he was like, wow, this is the person, this napkin, I'm going to ring this girl, find out who she is. But I was just so ambitious from that age. And I think that saved me from anything that was difficult about that time in my life, about, you know, being in school and being the odd one in school. That saved my bacon because I knew there's a bigger picture. There was a bigger purpose for me and I thought, I ain't going to stay here.
Rare that, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Thinking like that.
Really rare.
Manifestation, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
you're doing it back then without even knowing it.
I didn't know, and I it's only like
Could you vision it
retrospect.
in your mind?
Yeah.
Can you see yourself?
Yeah, I had like in that area of my life. Unlike, I mean, I had lots of lack of confidence in lack of belief of me as a person. The way I looked, you know, other things socially. But when it came to acting, performing, I had zero doubt. Like, move out my way because I'm going to get that. And I do think that's rare. And I you know, my dad was a welder. My mum worked in a bank. Like, I didn't come from like a family of performers where that had been an option. The main thing that they instilled in me though was you got to go and do what you need to do. My dad used to like, I don't know who the band was. It was a band that used to sing you've got to get out of this place if it's the last thing you ever do.
I don't know who it is.
I don't know who it is, but I feel like it was like Lindisfarne or something. But anyway, he used to say that to me, you got to get out of this place. Not because he hated Newcastle or that like it was a bad place to be, but just don't stay stuck.
Meant that, innit?
It's class.
Yeah,
like to look back and I think like, you know, my dad had grown up with nothing and he knew how hard it was and he grafted to move himself and do, you know, work on the rigs and stuff. I think it just instilled that in us.
Interesting that, innit? It's just like I've had that since I was little, and I think it's screwed me up a little bit that like money doesn't grow on trees and you've got to graft really hard for your money and blah, da, 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 and I'm like, holy shit, and I'm like,
scary.
Yeah, it's scary, and I'm like, now I've come to the realisation that it, you know, stop doing and start being.
Yes.
And kind of,
and
abundance comes from having that mindset.
Work smarter and all that, you know. Like, I definitely think like the times when I've pushed and pushed and pushed are the times when there's an internal resistance.
Yeah.
That when you're not going to get it. You know, when it comes to the world of acting, anytime I was desperate for a job, the energy I brought into the space was, you don't believe you can have it. So I didn't get it. The minute, like, anytime I was pregnant, I'd get every job I walked into because I knew I couldn't really do it. I'd be like just going in to meet the casting director thinking I'm pregnant. Yeah, they're not
different energy you're bringing.
Different energy.
Different frequency you're bringing in.
Like a relaxed space where you're like, this is coming to me, whatever. And I think, you know, when it comes to me as a kid, that's the energy I had. Because I was like, you know, I hadn't been bashed around by life at that stage. So I was just like, well, of course it's possible. Why wouldn't it be possible? No one had told me otherwise. So I brought that energy into that space, and that's why things materialized. It's only as you get older, you get jaded and stuff, you know.
Jaded. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about, you left school.
Yeah.
Big ideas as an actress. I'm like, look, I'm going to be a movie star.
Yeah, well, I left Biker in the show, and it was probably, you know, similar time to me leaving school, and my character in the show was a singer. And so what happened is I went on, I think it was Live and Kicking or the Saturday show, one of them like Saturday shows. And I was on there, and before the show you go out for a meal and stuff with whoever's on, and there was like the Blazing Squad and like, you know, people who were around at the time, pop idol people. And one of the singers that was on there had her manager there, and I was sat next to them being myself, like, again, I say what I want. So I was obviously saying I want to do singing, I want to do acting. And what I didn't know was she was moving to a new management company. She's phoned this manager and she was like, watch this girl on the Saturday show or Live and Kick and whatever it was, and just see what you think of her. And that manager then contacted my team at Biker, and it spiraled into, while my character on the show was trying to be a singer and I was doing all that, it was happening in real life. So I left the show on the Thursday on TV, like it went out to people. On the Saturday, I was on Top of the Pop. Saturday, I signed to Sony. Like that was all happening in the background. So when I left Biker and I left school, you know, for a time, for me, it was like, you write a letter, you get a job on TV, and you're on it for 7 years. Easy, right? Everyone's telling me the acting world's so hard, you've got to have thick skin, you've got to be tough. I leave that show, I signed to Sony, one of the biggest record companies in the world. I'm on top of it felt easy. Now the singing world, I didn't really, if I'm being honest.
What did he want you to do, Sony? What were they signing for?
So I signed as a solo artist, and you'll laugh because they made me change my name, right?
I was going to say, did he keep Holly Matthews? What did he change?
It's ridiculous, right? So Holly Valance was out at the same time.
Yeah.
Like as if we were in any way comparable is ridiculous, right? She'd come out of Neighbours, you know, done a similar route, but like on a scale that was rather bigger than what mine was. And so my management team were like, oh, like, let's not do Holly, which was weird because they were trying to piggyback off Biker Grove like fans, but yet who knew I was called Holly Matthews. They were like, oh, what if we just change your name? And I remember like, going through all these names and think like, how can you suddenly start answering to a new name? It's ridiculous. Anyway, at some point, I think I just, you know, wanted it all to be done. So we ended up, I was called Summer Matthews, right? And I had to just lie and say it was a middle name. It was just made up. So Summer Matthews.
Suits you that?
Well, I mean, we laugh, me and my sister laugh now because we're like, where's she gone? Where is she? Summer Matthews. How is she? And so Summer Matthews was born, and, you know, it feels like a different person because I was on my own all the time.
Did they change your identity a little bit to encompass this Summer Matthews?
Sort of. But then on the single was like off Biker Grove. Like they were you know, from a perspective of marketing, I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I knew it was wrong. I knew it was off. I knew they were getting it wrong, but I was 17, 18.
Thinking
I've gone to London
this is Sony,
and they know what. And I knew, like, looking back, all the things were there where I was going, I don't think this is going to work. Or like, I was trying to take charge, but I was a kid and I didn't have that power, and I didn't believe in myself in the same way I did as an actor in the singing world. It was quite a vulnerable space for me singing. And suddenly I'm doing MTV and I'm doing the Disney and Nickelodeon and doing all this stuff, but it was not in my comfort zone there, like, at all. It was nerve-wracking. And what ended up happening, the single was coming out. I didn't even know when it was coming out. You know, we didn't have, like we've got now, it was the beginning of, like, internet stuff, and, you know, I didn't have a website or, like, you know, none of that stuff was really happening. I didn't know how to market myself. I just talked and it was traditional. You did a magazine or you did TV. So I was doing all of that. And then I'm not going to blame George Michael, right? But I'm not going to blame him.
Okay.
So George Michael signed back with Sony. And so I went from having all these people buzzing around me, you know, going to be this new thing from TV. George Michael signed back up. So everybody's left me, gone to George Michael. And this was like a few months in the run up to the single coming out. And then suddenly it was just like a little quiet and nobody really knew when it was coming out. So by the time it came out, it got into the top 40, hit 32. And I remember, so bear in mind, I've gone from success, you know, easy. The entertainment industry is easy. And then on the Saturday, I knew where it was going to charge. It was going to hit 32. On the Sunday, it goes out on Radio 1. Monday morning, I get a call from Sony saying, it's been lovely working with you, goodbye. It was like...
That brutal?
That brutal. That was it. There was no, like, you know... Back in the day, people as artists used to get some time to grow, but it was we were.
You've told this story before.
Yeah, but I don't think people get like how brutal that was as a, you know. And I guess I could have pursued it. Like
your whole identity is locked on that,
and that's it. Like, and it's not like the thing. What people forget is that from being 11, before social media, before any of that stuff, my life was on a platform. And I'm not saying it was the dizzy heights of Hollywood, but there was always eyes on what I was doing. I was always perceiving myself through other people's eyes, which is not great for your mental health.
That's not good.
It's not ideal. So by that time, you know, I'm aware everyone would, I would go places, and you know, I'm not saying every single place I would go, but I would be recognised if they'd watched the TV show, or if they'd seen me on a show. And I was just constantly aware of that. And that was a really weird space to be in for me, to make my next move, because you're making your next move with eyes on it. it was challenging. And I think, you know, looking back now, there's things I would have done differently, but I always say that happening to me was a good lesson for me, because it made me tougher, and it also made me do the check-in with myself, like, what do I want to do next?
Who am I?
Who am I? Do I want this? Because I could have pursued singing. I could have went to another record company and went, let's go again. I would have got it, but I realised I didn't enjoy it. I didn't love the singing world. Like, I didn't love that industry. So
you're identified as a singer within Biker Grove, but really you're an actress. But then they saw the singing and then wanted you to be a singer.
Yeah, I wasn't.
So where did the actress bit go then?
Yeah, and what I realised was my favourite thing of the whole kind of, you know, pursuing singing and doing all of that was actually when I did the music video, because I was kind of acting. And so I was like, right, well, actually, I checked in with myself. What do you want? What's your next move? And I thought, I want to be an actor. And I thought, no one's going to take me serious, because I looked quite young for my age as well. And I'd come from a kids' TV show. I was looked at like I wasn't a proper actor. You're not proper acting, kids' TV, and you look like a child. So I wasn't getting seen for things as much as I would want to. So I thought, well, I'll go to drama school, there's something called the Conference of Drama Schools, top 10 in the UK. I thought, I've got to get one of them because it's a tick in the box. I wasn't interested in just learning. I knew that it had an impact if you had that name on it, that someone would look at my CV and go, oh, she went one of them ones, did she? A RADA and at that time I wanted to go to East 15 in Essex. And I really only had that. I went for a few auditions, but I really only wanted to go there, which again, didn't get anywhere else because I only really wanted to go there. So I should just audition there. So I went to drama school and I was there not even the first year before I left, not because I didn't like it. I loved it. I couldn't stop auditioning. I kept going to auditions, sneaking off, and I was auditioning for like Footballers' Wives, and then I got Waterloo Road and came up this way, and I just left, and I hadn't finished the first year. And they don't want you to do that because they want you to be like a full product.
Yeah, fully immersed into the,
But it's
craft. Hilarious
because when I was at drama school, they kept saying to me, you know, you look a certain way, you just never, you know, you need to roughen yourself up a bit. You're all too well turned out, you know, my makeup, my hair, my nails and all that. And they were like, you're never going to get anything outside of this. And I'm like, first part, I think, after Waterloo Road was a drug addict in the bill. And I just played rough characters and scaggy characters from then. Like, it annoyed me a lot of the stuff I learned in drama school because it didn't prepare people for the industry. Yeah. The industry was never going to cast me as certain things, but yeah, it was definitely like a shift for me. But it taught me that those moments of what do you want to do, like rather than just being ferried along. Like I say, I could have pursued the singing, but I realised I want to be an actor. That's what I loved, and that's what I enjoyed doing, pretending to be somebody else.
Has that acting stopped now?
So getting to kind of fast forward, my husband got brain cancer and then died of brain cancer.
Fuck me.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I've lived 100 lives. So when my husband was diagnosed with brain cancer...
When was that? 2014.
So we had 2 kids. And my husband was like, we like, you know, we just got on wicked. From the second we met each other, we were just... I think when I met Ross was autistic, very direct, hilarious. You always used to say, I couldn't go out with anyone but an actor because you don't have an embarrassment factor. He's just not bothered. So and I think everyone around him thought when we met that he'd get a woman who would settle him down, calm him down. And all I did was just crank him more, like bouncing off the walls.
That's what he needs.
And that's what we had a laugh, right? We had nearly 10 years together and we had a laugh every day. We knocked about together. People used to jokingly call us Rolly, like it was Ross and Holly.
Thank you for that, Ollie. I got that.
I'm not sure if I said his name. And he, we knocked about together. When he was diagnosed, for me, it was the weirdest moment in mindset shift. I remember coming back from the hospital. We'd been told it was brain cancer. We were told it was bad, like grade 4, rare. The worst, normally found in children, normally found at the back of the head. His was at the front. Like it was, you know, they say trying to find a cure for brain cancer is like looking for a needle in a haystack. His, like, no one's looking for the needle. They're not looking. It is you if you're lucky, you might, you know, your body might do something.
What were his symptoms?
Headaches were the worst, were the main thing. He started to experience symptoms of depression essentially and anxiety. And what we now realise were what we would call focal seizures. So he kept getting this thing where he'd have a wave of anxiety and then his hand would grip. But it could have been a panic attack, the way it was kind of displaying. It's only in retrospect you go, it was a seizure, but it was, you know, it was his brain doing it because it felt like a panic attack. And because he was autistic, they had said, like the psychiatrist had said, you know, the fact he was diagnosed at 26 or something, and the psychiatrist had said the fast-paced change of being a parent might be difficult for him because there's a lot of change and some autistic people find that difficult. So we were like, oh, maybe it's that, because the kids were so young. You know, Brooke was nearly 3, Texas was nearly 1, and so, which looking back, I'm like, they were so young. Like I don't know how I did all of this, but so you had those, and then I'd been doing Casualty, I'd been doing BBC Casualty, and I was away for like a week, and he'd had these like ice pick headaches, and he kept ringing me. We went to the doctors was like, look, doctors were sound, next time you have them, we'll do a liaison with the hospital, we'll get you straight in, right? So he had this one day, he's throwing up headaches and everything, and I'm like, you know, like a dog with a bone, he's getting tested. I never thought brain cancer. It didn't matter what Google search came up, which all said brain cancer. He was 29. You don't think brain cancer. You just don't. And if you've got no model of that being in your world, we didn't been around cancer, we didn't think it. And then we were sat in the hospital, been there all day, tested, prodded, done all the things. And then we sat late at night, we're literally about to order a curry. Like we were just like chilling, like let's just assuming it's going to be like anxiety or something. Curtains open up, 2 doctors walk in, and they just, without any kind of like warning, and not that you can ever have that, they just went, I'm really sorry, Mr. Blair, but we've found an egg-sized tumour in your brain. We'll see what we can do, you know, chemo, radio, brain surgery potentially, but if there's nothing else we can do, we'll just keep you comfortable. And we were just like, I mean, what do you say to that? And I looked at Ross, and he just went, what next? That was it. And from there, him and I both, you know, people that look the tiger in the eye. We're not like fearful people, and we were just, that was what we did with every stage of it. Ross never read what he was supposed to have, you know, like symptoms. He just got on with it. We didn't live in cancer. We didn't, you know, it's easy for people to look and go, well, at least he's not in pain. I used to get when he died, and like, you weren't in fucking pain. Like, I know that's weird for people to say, but we didn't live it. We lived in the pockets between cancer, and we just lived. And I remember he was about to do this full MRI, and we were like, right, like, look, assessing everything. And Ross and I, before that, worked proper hard, right? Like, we used to do a lot of promotional modelling stuff, you know, all that, and we made it ton. We're always on some hustle. We always had something going. We're selling things here. We always had something happening. So we'd made hay while the sun shone, right? We had made money in the time before the kids. When the kids were born, we'd kind of took a step back, but worked smarter, not harder. So actually money had still come in. We'd been smart with it. And Ross was very entrepreneurial, like always had an idea. And I remember I sat there and we were like, we've done good for us to deal with this. Like, no one's got any, like, you know, issues with drink or drugs or any problems really, like, between us. We're pretty good. We've got the kid, not that that's like everyone's issue, but like we haven't got anything added on here. We've got money in the bank. Ross had property, and so we had money coming in through rent and stuff. And we're like, we've got stuff happening. The kids, we've got kids, you know, like even that, once he's having chemotherapy and all of that, like your chances of having kids are very, very limited. We're like, we're in a good position. Let's just do what we've got to do. And for every stage, we just went, what's next? And then 2017, there was no next. Like, that was it. And, you know, our world was once again, you know, shifted, and I had to decide, what do I want to do next? Like, what do me and the girls want to do? And, you know, 7 years, we're coming to 7 years this year, and like, we're good. And it's shit, like there's no, I should be here. And, you know, it still shocks me to like say it, but for me, like when it came to acting, that's where for me it was really weird, in that I came back from the hospital and just was like, I don't know why I ever cared. Like, it was a shift in my head, like you wouldn't believe. Bearing in mind what I said, I was one track mind. I want to be an actor, move out my way. When Ross was diagnosed, I was like, why the fuck do I want to be an actor? I couldn't, like, I'd done Casualty, this big storyline. It was like really big, like I'd been sexually assaulted on it and stuff, and it was a big storyline, lots of interest because of it. And I'd just booked a film playing a footballer's wife or something. Rang my agent, I was like, just cancel anything. Like, I don't want anything. I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. And it's taken me a while to get back to it being fun and creative again. The last couple of years, I've done little bits and bobs. Like, I did a comedy on Amazon, might do another series of that, but it's on my terms now. And I think that's the difference. The acting world had already, being a parent, become difficult, and I was so sick of being, you know, cap in hand, please sir, give me a job. I don't care. Like, and I think, you know, being a business owner and doing things myself anyway, I was just getting a bit annoyed with other people being in charge of when I made money or when I did the things I wanted to do. And now people come to me, and if they go, Holly, do you want to do a day on a TV set, or do you want to do this? I'm like, it's literally got to be exactly on my terms. If it doesn't fit that, then I'm not bothered. Like, but again, you know, talk about the energy you bring. That's when people want you.
Oh yeah.
Because then they're like, why did you not want to do it? Like,
it's like someone texting you, like relationship. It's like they don't text you
don't
enough. I'm like,
well, Ross. That's how Ross says it. Ross says he pulled me because he's like, it's because I weren't interested. He'd read the game, right? You know the game that, like,
yeah, I think so.
I mean, I saw. He had it on, like, I think he had on like a CD. I'm like, are you having me on? Like, you read? I was like, I've read it. So don't be trying on me, because I've read what you're going to say to me. Yeah. Try and neg me and that. But he said that we were on this, like, with all these models, right? And we were all doing this, like, PIMS job. It was for PIMS, a festival, right? And he's giving everyone a cuddle at the end of the day and that. He didn't cuddle me, right? So everyone around's going, why are you not cuddling Holly, right? Absolutely trying to play me, right? And I'm like, don't bother. Like, I ain't that tactile. Like, don't worry about it.
Worked though, didn't it?
But it worked. He's like, I had you. He's like, it planted a seed, you a fume, and your ego took a knock.
He sounds class.
I tell you what, like, not a person that met Ross wouldn't have a story. Like, the more, it could go into any room and just take charge. Like, it was hilarious. Like, and he would say to me all the time, I'm one of a kind. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you're not supposed to say that. Like, other people are. He's like, well, you know, I am one of a kind. And, you know, it's funny because I see, like, in my daughters, what's hilarious, like, that's genetic, because they ain't seen that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I see that in them, and I'm like, that's so funny that must be genetic.
That cheeky confidence.
Yeah, well, absolute sass. I mean, you bring your kids up, don't you, to be confident and, you know, sassy and question everything, but then you're just like, not at me though, like, outside of this house. But I've got very confident kids.
Where's the personal development come from then?
So, growing up on TV, so I got to a point where, you know, 6 months of the year.
How would you class yourself if somebody ask you, Ollie, what is it that you do?
So I say now I'm a self-development coach, and I'm the founder of the Happy Me Project. And the Happy Me Project is a membership, so self-development membership. I do events, obviously write books as well, do one-on-one coaching and speaking and workshops for corporate businesses and things like that.
Why have you done that?
So why that specific part of it, or just in general?
Just in general, have you shifted from this identity of being an actress and a singer?
So it wasn't a shift. It wasn't a shift for me. So when I was, like, really young, you know, being the kid on TV.
So the actress thing is still a part of you.
Yeah, creative.
But this personal development has come into your life.
See, I get, you know, like you talk about, like, the ingredients or the values that make you, like,
who you are
and what you want to do, right? So I think I realised over the years that it didn't just come from acting. I've got to be creative. I love writing, and I'm a storyteller, right? And whether that's acting, whether that's speaking on stages.
You know, I'll be honest with you, right? Your social media is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And I see a lot of people's social media, right? And you tell a beautiful story, mate.
Oh, that's
Each one of your posts tells a really cool story.
Oh,
you get a little bit anal with your colour schemes and making sure everything's regimented, and that's a bit your OCD, right? But so your posts, mate, are amazing. I enjoy following you and enjoy watching your videos.
Good. Thank you.
It's rare from me, that, to be honest.
Well, I take that as a big compliment from you, because it's literally your world. So I do. And I tend to just go with what I feel with a lot of it. I don't think I've done any of that stuff in the way I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, I did self-development for myself growing up. I was in the background. I used to get Paul McKenna hypnosis CDs from the library.
Paul McKenna.
Paul McKenna was my
legit
guy.
Yeah.
And I used to, it's funny looking back, I used to do affirmations, and I didn't know, like, I must have pieced together ideas, and I knew I didn't want to feel shit anymore, and I did feel shit. But it was, for me specifically, when I was growing up, it was feeling like an alien, feeling like an outsider, but doing a really, really great act of fitting in. Like, on the outside, I was an actor. I was in the popular group at school. I'd go down the park and be getting drunk and doing all the things everybody else did. I presented really well. But internally, I didn't connect with any of these people. I did not fit in. I knew I didn't. And it would leak out now and then. It would be seen as like the weird kid. And I hated the way that I looked. Like, I thought I was disgusting.
Powerful message, this, isn't it? How many people are feeling like this?
So many people. But I bet they look shiny and veneer. The outside is all polished but we can't connect there. We're connected in our mess. We're connected in our vulnerable, in our discomfort, in our shit stories of, like, this is why we're talking here, right?
Yeah.
We connect there. We don't connect in some perfectly polished version of ourselves. And so I'm like, trying to present this version of me, but internally I was not connected to that at all. And that's why it's weird. Like, now I've started to talk about some of that stuff. People almost don't, they're like, oh, I didn't see that. I'm like, of course you didn't. I was very, very good. I was an literal actor. So I was very good at pretending, but it didn't feel good internally. So I started doing self-development. And then throughout, like, being an actor, to bounce back, the resilience of all that you need as an actor, I worked on self-development in the background, but just for me. So I trained as a life coach and all of that, but I never thought I would use it. I just did it. And then when Ross was sick, when he got, diagnosed, and I pulled back from acting, I started to talk about the stuff I was doing, essentially to protect me and my family, and to help Ross with his mental health, or to help people around. And I just started talking, and it was the most organic piece of shift for me, because it wasn't that hard. Like, I'd always done it. It'd just been in the background. And then, suddenly I'm getting asked to speak on stages. Well, obviously that wasn't a big deal for me. And writing, I always did writing. Like, I always wrote, but it was more to get out my head. I was writing poetry, and I always knew I would write a book. Like, again, a weird thing to say, I suppose, but I just knew I would write a book about all the stuff that I had done, and I just knew something would come of it. And so for me, when Ross died was so I was in the Mighton hospice with Ross for about a month when he was dying, and I had so much, like, I've always, like I say, had eyes on, but the level of sort of press intrusion when Ross was dying was a lot. Like, it was in every national newspaper, and there was just a lot of eyes on. There was, like, paparazzi at the funeral, and everyone knew everything. It was benefiting that, in that I never had to tell anyone that Ross died. Like, everywhere I went, I'd walk into a shop and heads would, certainly locally to me. And when Texas started school, so she started school for the first time just after Ross died, we moved house, we changed car, we moved school, like, everything changed within, like, a month. And I remember going into the school for the first day, obviously emotional because Ross isn't there for our first day of school, raining. And I'm like, just every head was staring at me. The teachers looked like they were shitting themselves. I'm just dropping off here's some grieving kids for you. Deal with that. Deal with those emotions. And the teachers are like that. Every parent staring at me. Like, it was a lot of intrusion. And I had so many messages of people, because I vlogged when I was in the hospice, just talked about it. Mostly because originally, I was doing vlogging at the time. I was being paid to do it initially. And then everyone kept asking me stuff. I didn't want to keep repeating myself. So I just talked about it. And for me, being in front of a camera is my safe space. I grew up in front of a camera. It's where I felt the most me. And so when I was talking, I'd share it, and I just thought, you know what? There's someone out here that needs to hear this. They need to know what it's like, because someone out there that's less confident than me, that isn't able to talk, is Googling, what's it going to be like when my husband dies? Because I was doing it. I'm sat there in the hospice looking up the stages of death, and how is that going to happen? Because I need to prepare myself. Like, what's it like to be a widow? Imagine, like, the miserable searches I was finding. And so I talked about it, but that generated so much press, and all these people going, how are you doing that? And so a couple of months after Ross's death, I created the Happy Me project as a standalone course, I literally recorded it on my phone at the bottom of my stairs with scribbled notes on like backs of envelopes of like, these are the things I do every day to not lose my shit constantly. Like, these are things that might help. Tangible stuff. It was a 30 quid course. I put it out in the world, no pompous ceremony, just like, there you go. And it just got legs. Suddenly it was like, I was seeing like, you know, 10s, 50, like suddenly I'm seeing hundreds and hundreds of people doing it. And I realised, you know what, people don't want bullshit. And when you're in the shit, when you're struggling, you ain't got time for someone to give you some sanctimonious, deep thing. You want action. You want something you can do today. And the Happy Me project was pretty much built off that, like me looking for how can I take all this knowledge I have and explain it in a way that you can do in your own front room. You don't have to go to fucking Bali and chant in the, you know, like our little, you don't have to do that. How can you do it here in your council flat in Hull? Or, you know, like, how do you do that? And that for me is what interests me. It doesn't interest me for self-development to be some other thing that only certain people can get access to. And that's how it got legs. It got legs because it was organic and it was real. And that's where we got to. So for me, it wasn't a big transition. And the only person that still goes, so are you going to go back to acting, is my mum. My mum will still go, so when are you going to go back to acting? Don't matter how many fucking things I do, you're going to go back to acting.
It's a weird one. It's what I was saying to you before about, you know, working for the big brands and stuff that I used to do. It's like I wasn't getting fulfilled doing that.
Yeah.
I get so fulfilled what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But do I love doing something for United? Do I love something for Nike? Yeah, of course I do.
Course.
But it doesn't fulfill me. I'll still do it. And then I feel like that you've just kind of found your purpose in life, which is amazing, but it's always been there.
It has.
You're a random little character, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like random.
Just like, can I have that on a quote?
You can have that, mate.
You're a random little I am, yeah. And I do, and I know that, and I think really I'm 40 next month, and I'm really just own that now. Yeah. Like, I'm all right with it. I've lived 100 years in my lifetime, and I have done, like, I'm like Ness off, my friend always says you're like Ness off, what do you call it, off the Gavin and Stacey. You always got a story. I've always got a story. I've done weird stuff. One of my friends, a photographer, Kaylee, and she's always like, the weirdest things I've done in my life, always because you've dragged me in to do something. Like, we once I taught a PE lesson in Cardiff with Alex Reid and someone from Steps. And she's like, that's really weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's really weird. Why have you done that? And I'm like, I don't know how that happened. I forgot. But there's loads of them. And, you know, it goes back to stories. I've always said to myself...
Always goes back to stories.
It's going to be a good story one day.
Always.
It'll be funny. It'll be a good story. Do you know what
I always tell people that when it comes to branding and the way to get people engaged with your brand is stories.
100%.
100%.
That's the only way to do it.
Just nobody knows how to tell a good story, an authentic, genuine one.
Do you know though? So if we think like family and stuff, you know, like I said, I didn't really come from a family of like entrepreneurs or anything like that. My granddad, right? My granddad, Matt the cat, he was known in Newcastle, right? He actually sadly died of the human form of mad cow disease, CJD, which was really, again, random. Like, not many people did. But he died of that. He wasn't very old. He was like 54, 55, something like that. So he died pretty young of that. But he was a big character. And people now, even in Newcastle, would be like, of a certain age, would be like, oh shit, Matty's like Matt the cat. Like, the reason he was an interesting guy, it goes back to he could tell a good story, and he was, he was a shop steward. He would be he was the talker. He could tell a story. He could be in the roughest pubs in Newcastle, and everyone would know him. But he was also getting invited to like political events and stuff like that because he could tell a good story and he could hold his own in any room. Yeah. And I do think
transcends.
It was a confident bloke, and he was known. And I do think, like, in my family, this is why I talk as much as I do, but my family you want to get a word in, you best be quick, you best be sharp, you best be funny. And, maybe working class northern families, that's something we do very well. And I definitely think there's something in that. And my dad always said to me, my dad's worked all over the world in the oil industry and, broad Geordie accent. And he always said to me, listen, you don't have to be something you're not. No one's ever going to think you come from money. You give too many tells away. Own it, it's fine. enunciate yourself. Don't walk around speaking broad Geordie so you can't be understood, because you'll sound stupid. But don't let anybody tell you that you're less than because of where you're from or you can't do the thing. Just show them.
He's meant him, isn't he?
Like,
he's legit.
Yeah,
to have a dad like that.
Yeah,
my dad was a cunt, man. He weren't like that, yeah.
I'm lucky.
Yeah, really lucky.
I'll
have that guide so early on. I didn't have that. I had to kind of find my own way.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, tough.
That's the biggest gift we can give our kids. Is like, listen to them, believe them.
100%. Let them express themselves. Let them think, but just be that little.
You got kids
guy.
or no?
No.
Well, I tell you, with the girls, like, that's the one thing I'm like, they've got whatever. Brooke, my oldest, wants to be an actor. Texas, my youngest, she wants to be a footballer. Right? They're like, one's batting a ball about everywhere, kicking a ball about, one's singing show tunes. Right? But I'm like, when they've found their thing, they're the most confident that they've ever been. And that's such a beautiful thing. Like, beautiful. It's really lovely. I mean, I'll have to show you my dad's marketing campaign for my new book coming out. It's cracked me up. He's banned from most social media because he's ranty. He has a little
straight to point.
He has a little rant. He shouts at racists and that. Right, and that. Okay. He's always on the right side of stuff. But I'm like, Dad, you know,
the way he does it.
Yeah. And he's just put on. I was on Lorraine Kelly last week, and my dad's just put just on nothing else. Just watch Lorraine tomorrow, right? I'm like, oh, crap's sake. And he's going, I'm building suspense. Next day, make sure to watch Lorraine on Wednesdays. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm just getting them all like hyped up, like hashtag who's on Lorraine. Like,
it's just annoying.
I'm just like, it's annoying. And you've not got that many people on your Facebook. Like, I don't think they care as much. He's like, I'm whipping them up into a frenzy of like, it's
I think people might have got the idea
I think
that you're going on Lorraine.
It's just me. Yeah, it's me again. But it's cracked me up. I was sure more of my friends.
So you went on, when you went on Lorraine, why were you asked to go on Lorraine?
So I went on Lorraine the first time just after Ross died, and I think there was a lot of interest in, I guess, how I spoke about it because I was direct. And so I was asked to go on Lorraine just a month after Ross died, and I went on there, I talked about grief, and I talked about how... So
can you talk to me about grief?
Yeah, of course.
Right, and how do you handle grief, right, from, like, I'm not going to compare this, but this is my reality,
course,
right, but not last week, the week before, I had a dog put down, and my grief was to sit in it. Yeah. I've not done this before, and it scared the shit out of me, and just cry and scream and just... Let it out.
Yeah.
What is that for?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done that. And I remember, well, even before Ross died, I remember sitting in that like acceptance space. And when I was in the hospice, and again, I was lucky that I'd done self-development before because I had some of this at my disposal. Like I knew it. And I knew that if I tried to fight it, you know, when we're like, I don't want this to happen, this is not happening, denial. Yeah. I knew that was going to make it worse. It was going to cause more pain because it was happening. Yeah. Ross was dying. There wasn't any going back. Yeah. And I practiced acceptance, and I do meditation, like movement meditation as well. And I would sit there and I would look at I say look the tiger in the eye. I would sit and I would say Ross is dying, and language mattered, right? So. And I've never said Ross is lost Ross, because he's not fucking lost. If he's lost, it's a fucking terrible game of hide and seek, because, well, harsh. Yeah. He's a wanker if he's done that. Like, he's not lost. I from the beginning, I said Ross has died, because my brain couldn't compute it. How can you possibly, like, your brain doesn't, they've got this energetic, loud, big character, and then they're not there anymore. Your brain's like, it don't make sense of that. So I always... From the beginning, Ross died, and I'm very direct with the kids as well. We don't do lies. We do, in any area of our life, I tell them the truth. I don't know what the lie is supposed to be. I'll just tell them whatever they ask me, I'll tell them the truth. And so I think that helped me. But I think I gave space to it. Like, I remember thinking to myself, one, I'm not going to do this how everyone thinks I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wear a black veil and like do it how the fuck I want, because I've never done anything the way people tell me that I should do it. And so I'm just going to do whatever feels right. And I remember thinking, listen, if I have a breakdown, if I end up like depressed, if I need tablets, if I need, you know, like whatever it is, I'll let it be. And I'm owed it. Whatever needs to happen. And I think by just like letting it be. So I'd cry when I needed to. That helped. Like, and it was hard. It was harder for other people because they would see me, you know, on a day when I was feeling all right or a moment when I was feeling all right, and they'd do that fucking patronising, head cocking thing of, are you all right in yourself though? No, I'm not all right all the time. In a minute I might be crying, but I get it. Like Ross and I were directors people, and Ross was just like, I'm dead or I'm fucking alive. Like they tell me I've got cancer, I can't fucking feel it. And it's like, you know, it is what it is. He used to say, if any one of my mates could have taken this, it was best to be me. I'm sound, I'll be all right. I said, I've done everything I wanted to do. I regret nothing. I've lived a good life. I'm happy. And he was always sort of had that foresight of that. And I think that in itself, Ross and I, you know, from the minute we met, we were together. Like every aspect, we talked about everything, we said everything. And we only got just under 10 years together. But there's some couples that they go to work every day, don't see each other. Ross and I were like joined at the hip because we just had a laugh together. Our best moments weren't like the big, you know, we got married, didn't tell anyone, just went and got married, and then went for a cup of tea after, text everyone, said we got married, and they were like, fuck off, no you didn't, did it an hour away. Our best moments were when it was just me and him sat in a room together, no TV or nothing, just having a laugh. So we lived a lot, and that's helped me with grief, because, you know, Ross is in every moment of stuff, you know. Even when I'm thinking, oh, he'd fucking hate this, he'd hate me doing this, he'd be telling me off. Like, I never hid it from the kids, you know, like we talk about Ross. I never made him taboo. I spoke to a lot of kids whose parents had, you know, adults whose parents had died when they were kids, and they were like, it became a taboo, you couldn't mention them. And I was like, nah, that's not what it's about. So I've always brought Ross into the space, you know, Dad would have loved this. Who would have loved this? Dad would have done this. Dad said this to me once. He's never off the table. Like, it's not like, and I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, we don't move on from Ross. It's just not taboo. It's, you know, life's grey, life's uncomfortable. And I think that helped me with grief, and just not looking at things like the fucking stages of grief, like you're ticking them off. Like, once I get here, that's not going to happen. It's waves of grief, and different things will bring that up. You know, even things like lockdown and all of that. Suddenly you've got this collective grief. Well, then anyone who's experienced grief, it hits them like a wave again. Or it'd be certain things like, recently, it's such a weird one. Ross was a cook, right? Loved cooking. He did a few cooking courses, which I'm fuming about because I hate cooking, like with a deep passion. I hate cooking, hate making food, and it's never ending as a parent. It's just constant. And Ross, that was his job. So I'm a bit, you know, I'm very annoyed that he's not here to do that. And so he had a lot of nice, like, cooking things. This thing I'm going to mention wasn't a nice thing, but there was a sieve that's been around since Ross was there. All of things came from the old house, and it was fucked. It was all coming apart, and I kept looking at it and thinking, I'll just put that in the bin and get a new one. But there was part of me couldn't get rid of it. It was broken. It was literally cut my hand on it a couple of times. But I kept thinking, no, I'll just get rid of it, and it became this thing where I was like, I think it's like, that's grief. Like, I can't get rid of a fucking sieve, because it feels like I'm getting rid of something that was here when he was here, that he would have touched, that he would have cooked with. Like, I'm being disloyal, getting rid of a sieve. I mean, I know logically he'd have went, put the fucking sieve in the bin, what are you doing? But there's those moments where it brings up a pain. Or if I see his handwriting on something, that kills me off. Like, because that's so the person, isn't it? Their handwriting, it's all part of them. So I've done everything in stages, and I've not as in stages of grief. I've done things like, you know, his clothes in the loft or things like that. I've not forced myself to do it all at once, because it's too much. Because, you know, even if I go in my loft now, I've done things bit by bit up there, but I'm like, it feels like time stood still, because there's like things from when the kids were little, or things Ross and I did, or photographs, or some of his clothes, or like he had a football teamwear business, an online football teamwear business, so like stuff from that in packets. And I'm like, or the load of whiskey that we've got up there that we bought because we thought we'd put our money in whiskey for a time. I'm like, but I go up there and it's like, all of that is like a future that we had envisaged, and it's not there, and that's hard. Like that, you know. and seeing the girls, every stage the girls go through, going to school, Texas has just gone to secondary school. Ross should be there for that. Teaching them to ride their bike. That would have been Ross. Like, that's hard. That's when it's like, the grief is hard. But I don't think there's, you know, I could give everyone all of the ideas in the world around grief, but they've got to do it in their own way. And I think you've got to zone out what everybody else thinks it should be like, because it's not going to look like how people think it's going to look.
There's no manual for it, is there? Just, I wonder, that's why I asked you the question about grief, because it's like, that's the first time I've properly been through grief, and I was like, many times in my life I've either gone to the gym or I've got to work to take my mind off it, and I thought it's never worked before, because I always get triggers and it ends up coming in random moments.
Yeah, or you get annoyed at someone.
Yeah. It comes out a different way. I thought this time, you know, everything I've learned, I'm just
give space. I think that's for me. Like, one thing I really recognise, and this is, I guess, a new stage of self-development for me, was like when Ross died, like what had served me in life up to that point was attack. Like, as in, the world, you know, as the kid at school, it was weird. I was the kid off the like, be the loudest in the room, be the most confident, do this version of you, you know, be the funniest, be the one that gets the joke in first. Yeah. Be this, like, essentially like armor, boom, 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 build this armor, no one can get near you. Yeah. And I realised in that I need people, like I want to feel connected, and I don't want to miss this moment of growth. Like, there was a level of understanding that, and I said, I'm going to let myself be whatever it is, I'm going to allow the grief to come. But I also realised I had to start showing vulnerability, and I had to own all of the aspects of who I was, and that was a deeper, like, you know, vulnerability is brave as shit, right? You start going, actually, I'm struggling, or actually, this is really hard, or actually, my house is a fucking mess all of the time. Actually, I hate doing this. Actually, I really struggle with this. And the more I lent into that, the more people connected with me, because people were like, oh shit, I do that as well. I'm like that. And the more I felt connected with myself. And I think that was off the back of, because I think part of me was like, the swagger of youth, right? You think you know everything, and then life humbles you, and you're like, I know shit. Ross dying was that moment for me where I was like, the world I understood had Ross alive in it. I understand nothing. And then I'm a student. I need to be a student because I understand nothing, because life doesn't make sense. Ross should be alive and now he's not, so nothing makes sense. So I need to be open to the possibility of being wrong and get uncomfortable again, because that's the only way I'm going to grow. And the last 7 years have been that, really. Yeah. It's a lot. It's
fucking brutal, that, mate.
Yeah, and it has been. I think people, people look at your social media and they think, oh, well...
Yeah, Mrs. Perfect, Holly Matthews Perfect, fucking Holly.
It's like, I mean, I'm good on there in that I try to
plus
show
she's
the
pink
signs.
as well, and you're like, there's nothing wrong with her.
She's fine, everything's pink, rose tinted spectacles and all that. And but I do try to show other aspects, but it's still difficult, all the stuff that we've gone through with the girls, and they're amazing kids, but it's been hard. Like, we're suddenly a 3 and everyone's got opinions on how that should look, and you need a man around the house, that's why this is happening. My daughter's autistic, and we clash heads. We have clashed heads. We're in a really great place now. It was a little 3 little family, but it's been really hard. And one thing I said to the girls early on was like, we've all got to give space for each other's pain, or some days one person's going to be all right and the other person's not. Some days, somebody's going to be angry, and everyone's processed it differently. We've got one that processes it in a very attacking, angry way, but still grief, it's still sadness, and one that hides it all underneath. And you got to navigate that. And as a solo parent, there's no tag out. There's nobody tagging you out when you've had enough. It's just full on. I've got to be mum and dad. I've got to play those both masculine and feminine roles in my household, and that's a lot sometimes. But I've always said to the girls, and again, something I learned off my dad, he always used to say to me as a kid, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing my best, but I've got no idea. I've never done this before. There's no manual for how to do this. And I say the same to the girls. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never parented a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old before. And I'm basically a child in my head. I don't know how I'm allowed to do this. I don't know how I'm allowed to be a parent. I don't think you ever feel grown up.
Yeah, my girlfriend's kids are 11 and 13.
Oh yeah, terrifying. Do you understand them? Any of the words they're on about?
I just let them express themselves. And I love it.
It's brilliant.
I love it. I put on Psycho Killer with Talking Heads I put on the other day, and Kobe just started dancing, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm like, mate, you just keep dancing like that.
Never
you
stop.
Just, like,
yeah.
The weirdest dance. I'm like, come on.
But just
like, don't lose. I don't tell anybody.
Ever. I love.
Because my thing's always like, whatever we do here, always remember that we're trying to get everybody on the dance floor.
Yeah.
So they can just dance like no one's watching. Everybody turns up to school disco, just dancing around the this is my tune. I'm like, but I'm scared of that. I'm like, no, it's gonna fucking
just go for it.
Do
you know what I say to the girls tonight? No one gives a shit. Yeah. No one's really watching, no one cares. Just express yourself, the freedom to not care. Yeah. Like, I remember Ross used to say...
That's why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
That, 100% is probably the same reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like, it's just letting people be free.
I have this drive in me. Like, I remember a few years back, I sat with my friend of mine who runs a marketing company, and he was like, so why do you do what you do? We're talking about what what's your driver? What's the reason? Why? And I'm like, the only thing I could come up with, it's not enough for me to just be happy. It's not enough. Like, I have this like thing, you know, like in like war films and that, and they're like, never leave a man behind, never leave a man behind. To me, that's the same. It's like, never, I walk around and I meet people and I'm like, you're fucking incredible. Why can't you see that? Why are you holding yourself back? So for me, when I'm writing about confidence and self-belief and happiness, and I'm always trying to think, how can I help ask you the right question so you can see how great you are, or so you can find your thing? Because I can't tell you, you know, strictly speaking, I'm a life coach, but that makes me sound like I'm telling you how to live your life. I can't tell you how to live your life. I'm not in your head. You need to make that decision. And that comes the same with my kids as well. Like, I've always said to them, just be your weirdest self and lean into that. Because when you do, you attract your own band of weirdos that you get on with and you have a laugh. When you pretend, like I did for a long time when I was growing up, that doesn't feel good. It might get you a certain level of success, and that's why in this new book I talk about both external and internal confidence, because I do recognize as an actor and as a performer there's a level of carrying yourself in a certain way that will get you in the room. It will get you a certain level of success. It will get you having, you know, that date or whatever. But it has to be, the internals are more important, but I don't think then, you know, they have to sit next to each other.
They're not two separate masks.
No, they're not. Like, I think people get really triggered by fake it till you make it, but it has a part. I don't think that, you know, as an actor,
I don't like that terminology.
No, maybe
achieve it to believe it. I don't know, something.
Yeah, I think like
believe it to achieve it. I don't know, something like that.
You got to do the internal work. Otherwise, you'll just stay disconnected. But it's not like, you know, if you do all the internal work, let's say you've been a historically shy, introverted person and you've been unconfident and all of that, and you've had low self-esteem, your body language is probably not great either, right? You're probably habitually, you know, not looking at people and all of that. And you that's habitual. You can do all the work internally, and that's the work to do for sure. And you might, let's say you build your self-esteem and you believe in yourself. But if your body language still remains the same, the world will respond to you the same. So you're still not going to feel that external impact in your environment. So for me, it was this new book is me going, right, act out head, how I know, I can tell you how to look confident and what the science behind that is, how people receive you. But I also know what the internal work is that you need to do. And, you know, for me, it's every person I've ever worked with, when there's a difficulty, there's largely a lack of trust, lack of self-belief, or lack of confidence. And it just comes up, it's pervasive, it's through everything. So that for me is why this new one's been like about that, because I just see it so much. It's the block for people. And if you can get through that, and even it's not necessarily about like, so I think people think confidence means competence. You're not going to be good at everything. Like, you're not going to be good at everything straight away either. You're going to be shit first at a lot of things, and then you can get better. But confidence for me, if you can build the confidence that you'll find a way, because that's the confidence I have. I don't think I'm good at everything. I'm good at some things. I can wing a lot. But I do believe I'll find a way. As Marie Forleo says, everything is figure-outable, right? You'll find a way, and that's kept me through. Like, on the worst days when I'm like, I've got kids screaming at me and kids are upset and, you know, maybe financial something's, you know, when the worst days, in those moments when you think, I'm fucked, like I can't do anything here, in those days I have to trust, and I repeat it as an affirmation, you work it out, I will work this out. And that's how you get through it. You know, you have lots of people, and I know you have on here in business, and they've had failures, and in those moments it's despairing. Like, your brain's going to give you all of the reasons why you're basically dead in a ditch. That's it now, you're done for. You got to fight against that, and you got to trust yourself and go, I'll find a way. And that, for me, I know that even if I hit rock bottom, everything went sour, everything went wrong, I'd still find a way. I trust that now. I'll work it out. There'll be a route for something that will be joyful, and that's, to me, like, that's a different level of confidence, isn't it?
What are people coming to you for? What's their sort of like main thing? I'm going to book a one-to-one with Holly.
Usually, it's when people hit a crossroads in their life. So it's lost the biggest thing. If people say, I'm just lost, I don't know what I'm doing. It's usually like, particularly for women, it's hitting certain ages, 40, 30, 50, kids leave home, or relationship breakups, divorces, lose their job. These pivotal these pivotal moments which make us assess our lives, people come to me and they go, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm struggling. What do we do here? And that's usually the words I hear are, I just feel lost, I just don't know what to do, or real lack of confidence. I don't believe in myself, I don't think I can do anything. I work with a lot of women in business, purely in a one-to-one capacity. In my membership, men and women, and just people use the membership as like a gym for their mind and a community where I often say it's a safe space to land. We don't skirt around stuff. We don't sit in our pain in there either. I don't want people to be stuck there, but you can share it, you can talk about it, we look at, we have people in there have had some dark stories, but we find solutions, we find a way. We give space to sit in the pain like you did with your grief, because we don't have to avoid that stuff. Yeah. But we've got to get it out of our body as well. I will do a lot of somatic work now, which is What's that? So somatic's very much like connecting. So it could be going to the gym, that could be a somatic thing, but a lot of, shaking it off, getting in your body, dancing could be, singing, screaming, crying, get it out your body. And I did the same with the girls. When the girls were really little, we used to do, and I once talked about this I think I talked about it on Lorraine, and it went in the Daily Mail, and I got lambasted in the Daily Mail.
Lambasted?
Good word, isn't it?
Great word.
Thank you.
Love it. That's not your word, Holly.
It's not my word, but I feel like I feel joyful that I've been able to say lambasted today. It's a gift to all of us. So I was, they got me in the Daily Mail, as they normally do, because I said that I let my kids swear. And I said swearing's a really good way of getting stuff out. And as you probably already know, I'm a swearing person. But I use it for lots of reasons, mostly comedy, to be honest, mostly for being funny. But when the girls were in, Ross died, the girls were 6 and 4. I knew they needed to get it out. Yeah. I knew they didn't need to, they were walking around seeing adults hide all their feelings, and they thought, everyone's not sad now. And I'm like, oh, they are, but they're not getting it out. So at bedtime, just like as us as adults, they'd feel all the same angst and sadness and grief, and it would come out at bedtime. And I was always thinking of ways, how can I help these kids get these feelings out? How can we talk? How can I give them room to express what they're feeling? And so one of the ways, I was like, one day, I was probably just like, no one's going to sleep. So I'm like, okay, everyone can swear. In this space, you can say whatever the fuck you want, right? You can get mad, you can scream, you can punch pillows, you can throw things around, but only in here. You do it at school, there's a consequence. That's not my business, that's on you. You're going to get in trouble. You do it outside of here, you're going to be in trouble, but in here. And I remember them being given that permission, but not knowing whether to do it. So bloody hell.
That's the first one.
It was like that, and then they got more and more. And then what we used to do was sweary poetry. So I'm quite good at really shit basic rhyming and I just do it quick, little poetry, kids put so the kids would say, I'd say, right, give me 2 swear words and tell me what your day was like, and then give me 10 minutes, and I'd go away and I'd write. I might have one on there because someone asked me about this recently. And I'd give them a couple of things, and then I would come back, and it would be a silly poem with their swear words in it based on what kind of day that they'd had. Yeah. And then we would do that. So and they had these get it out books as well. So they could write anything they wanted in there. And I say, you can write swear words, you can write bad things, you can whatever. And I will never read it unless you ask me to. But at that age, they often wanted me to say it. So they would let me do it. But I was always just trying to get it out your body because it can't sit in our body.
Lives in it, doesn't it?
It lives in
your
body.
Central nervous system.
Yeah, they say the body keeps a score,
Yeah,
right?
man.
That's the book, and it does.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's
Yeah,
why
I used to hold it in my
sick.
stomach and it used to swell.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, my shoulders,
Yeah.
we hold it. We've got to get it out, whatever that is. Shake it out, dance party in your front room, like raving, whatever. Just get it
You're
out.
a top mum, you. That's mint that.
Well, now it's all coming back to me because now they're swearing at me
Yes.
and calling me bruv. Like when no one prepares you for that, do they? You go from like mama to mummy, and now it's like bruv, or like I came in the other day and
Come on, it's good that.
I'm wearing like this black top. I'm thinking I'm look good with some like hoops. And
What
that.
you wearing, bruv?
And I get man's dressed like a pirate. You know what I mean? Absolutely humbled.
That is class.
Man's dressed like a what's
I'm
man
using that.
dressed like a pirate for?
Listen, I'm using that. That is class.
I mean, I was, but I was all right with it. I quite like being dressed like a pirate, but like man's dressed like a pirate, nah.
Yeah.
Absolutely outrageous.
Dude, that's a social media post, that one. I'm sorry, but that is.
Man's dressed like. I mean, I was, but it is. It's what it is. So I always.
Do you want let me do the random one because I've just asked.
Yeah,
Someone's asked me to ask you, right?
Oh, God.
When are you bringing the children's books out?
My kids asked me that the other day.
Right, okay.
It's interesting. You know what? Maybe I will. I think I've always, because my style is so direct, maybe that's a good thing though. Maybe teenagers I would do, because I think I've been asked to speak in a couple of schools. In fact, I've been asked to speak in a
Yeah, that's your
boarding
next move, that.
Yeah, someone said a boarding school contacted
I
me.
went to boarding school.
You did not, did
Yes,
you?
I did, yes.
Where did you go to boarding school?
It's not as nice as you think it
it's
would be.
okay, it's not. Is it not?
No. I'll tell you,
thinking
I'll
like
give you the
Ian
quick
White.
version.
Yeah.
I used to talk after lights out, and then they used to lock me in a cellar, make me used to stand up, and then they used to switch the light off on me when they walked out.
That's not what I was thinking.
Everyone's
like,
think I'm dead posh and stuff like that, dude.
I thought like
it weren't
sleepovers
that. There
and
were no
pillow
sexual
fights.
abuse, man, but it were brutal.
Shit, that's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's not what we.
This is the stuff I've had to work on over the years. I
Yeah.
mean, mushrooms have helped me a lot because
Yeah, a few people say that.
yeah, I've got Sandra. Shout out to our Sandra. There's kind of stacks, and little Tim's got some stacks going on at the bottom, like Jenga. Teenage years, stack upon stack and stack.
yeah.
Been to see counsellors, and they just get to the first 2 or 3. Mushrooms go out, boom, and pull it out from the bottom. Like you release it, and the rest go.
Like a
Yeah,
ripple effect.
you're like,
Wow.
I didn't know these things were bothering me. I do talk about it a lot because it's been such a massive thing for me.
But it's easy
for
to
release.
paper over, isn't it? Like all
So
of that.
easy.
Yeah. I think
So
a lot of
easy.
people and sometimes the things that bother you, the things that are sat in your subconscious, are not the thing that you expect because you were a child.
Yeah.
You're not an adult dealing with that. An adult version of you wouldn't have accepted that, but the child does. That's why I do a lot of inner child work with my
Amazing,
clients, and I did some recently, right? Because you never stop learning, do you? Like, and you'll know this. It doesn't matter what layer you get to. And I just recently trained as an intuitive psychologist, which a lot of the work is inner child, it's deeper work, it's shallow work.
The best work.
It's the best work. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
And it's a friend of mine's course, a diploma, and it's deep, it's hard. And it was really nerve-wracking for me because I was going in there as an established coach with people who've never done it before. And I have to go in there and go, I need to be a student again and talk about stuff. And I did this inner child thing. And I'm thinking, I've dealt with all that school stuff, I've dealt with being that weird kid, I've talked about it, all of that. And in this kind of meditation thing that we did and in our child work, the first place I've gone back to where it was like shit was like standing opposite my school and she's talking to me, she's going, well, go and stand next to the school. And I'm like, every fibre, I'm like, nope. No. So I actually it was amazing because I'm like, I'm an adult, like I'm nearly 40. Why is that bothering me now? But I was a child when things were shit and when things happened. I was a child. And so that version of me, she's still upset. She still feels it, that version. And this is, that child version of us is still sat there.
Just come forward a bit more.
It's still sat there, so this is where this, that work's really important. So I've decided next time I'm up in Newcastle, my school's knocked down now, probably, thankfully. But I think I need to go there and just go and sit with that feeling, whatever that was, and, the stuff that, I need to sit with it. It's
sick, mate. It's so good what you're doing, Like, you've impressed me.
That's good.
I knew I really like you anyway, but like even more so, honestly. It's amazing the stuff that you're doing, mate.
Thank you.
Amazing.
And the child's book thing, I skirted around, but I'll look at it because I do think...
I think you got to look at it because that's where it starts.
Maybe I bring the
little
kids into
Tim,
it.
let me put it this way, little Tim needs to read one of your books.
I said, but this is it, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I need to read one of your books.
Maybe I need to get the kids to be involved, though.
Sweet.
I bring the kids...
Whatever it is, mate, bring the fucking
Yeah.
random poems you've got going on and stuff like.
I have to show
all
you them.
all
Yeah.
roads are leading to that. Whoever told me to ask you that question, I don't know what it was, but...
Interesting. I
yeah.
guess I did a kids workshop, and you know what was really difficult? I did it because the kids kept asking. They were only little at the time, and I said, "Oh, I like them to be entrepreneurial. They're always on something.
Yeah.
They're always." In fact, they were in the Sun newspaper for they had their own little business selling beads.
Amazing.
Entrepreneurial. They're doing amazing, and they do stuff. So I got them involved. I said, "Oh, well, we'll do a workshop." But I did it so it was parents and kids, which I now regret. I wish I'd just done kids, because what was really hard was the parents should have been at my workshop and they were the issue. Like, I was like, this one girl, I'm going round, I've got them with these shields, right? I'm getting them to write things that they're great at. And like, when it's really hard, you've got this shield to protect you, right? And you're going to have all these amazing things that you're really good at. So I'm going round and I'm saying to the kids, I'm giving compliments. I'm like, oh, you've got to write down that you're brilliant at, like, look at what you've got on, you look amazing in that, like you're a good dresser, you're good fashionable in that, or you're dead polite because you said thank you to me earlier, and I'm giving them compliments. And I went over to this one girl, and I remember because she's called Holly as well, so it stood out to me, Holly, in with each other. And mum sat there and she's got nothing written down. So I'm like, Holly, come on, you must have loads. I bet you're a great friend. I bet you're good at drawing. I'm giving it all this. Her mum, she didn't say anything, she's really quiet. Her mum went, she just finds it all very egotistical. And I'm like, like trying to be nice. I'm like, does Holly find it egotistical, or do you, Sandra? Like, and that was hard for me, because I'm like, it's you, you're the problem, it's you. Like, and this is why we've got to do the work as parents, right?
Yeah, don't do that. Get to the kids, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Fuck Sandra.
Sandra, fuck off, Sandra. Write you a sweary poem, Sandra, for God's sake, stop. I heard someone, I
think you should write a book for the Sandras.
Maybe I should. Do you know what? This one's just come out, but I'm, my editor, I'm going to be like ready. I've got loads of ideas now. Maybe we do two at once.
The children's book, mate, honestly, it's
good.
just right there. That is, honestly.
Yeah, you've got me thinking.
Ollie Matthews' children's books, I'm telling you, mate, wow.
Give them some
Beautiful
ideas.
illustrations with it and stuff, and just, I love it, mate, honestly. Okay. Absolutely.
Whoever sent
that, I appreciate
question.
you downloading from somewhere, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Good, I like it.
How do people get in touch with you? I feel like I could talk to you for ages, but I need to cap you off at some point.
Yeah, you've got to stop me.
You'll be fucking talking forever.
I'm hyper-verbal, so you wind me up at the back, I just won't stop. And I don't think I ever would, so you have to stop me. Right, people can find me. Obviously, I do social media. Instagram's probably the biggest one to get hold of me, but I do the LinkedIn now and then.
You do the LinkedIn?
The LinkedIn, I do. I'm not very good at it, though. A couple of my friends who are good on there, they're like, you need to be better.
I don't know what that means, being good at it.
I don't either, and that's you see, the minute someone's telling me you need to do it, I'm like, well, I'll do what I want, and now I don't know what to do. I'll work it out on there, but I'm on there. And I am hollymatthews.com, and I always say, if you can't find me in your Google search, then your internet is broken. I'm there, so come and say hi, and let me know that they came from this as well, because I like knowing where people came from. It's always good.
The girl who asked for your signature and get it tattooed on.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It was, so I went to an event, I was speaking at a women's, it was called Womanifest, up this neck of the woods actually, and the Northwest, and it was really good, and this girl followed me for a while, and she said, can you sign this for me? I said, it was before the book came out, and she was like, oh, could you sign this piece of paper? And I'm like, oh yeah, and halfway through the signature, she's gone, I'm going to get it tattooed on me, and I'm like, whoa, okay, I best not do my scribbly writing then. You're going to get a tattoo. And I thought she was messing. And she was supposed to come to a workshop I did last weekend, and she wasn't very well. She was really upset. She was like, I was going to show you the tattoo. And I'm like, you actually have to show you it. It's so neat. It's such a compliment. It's such a compliment. It feels like anything. I believe that people are people, and I don't put anybody on pedestals. I don't give a shit where you've come from, what you do, and include myself. I'm not special. Not. We're all the same.
What do you mean when you say that you're not special?
I'm no different to
anybody else, right? Okay.
But
you are special.
yeah, we're all in the way that we're all special. Then I'm unique. We're all unique. Like I don't. What I mean is, I have a lot of self-confidence now. Like I do believe in myself, and I really appreciate. Like that's such a beautiful thing. Like I really feel that's a beautiful thing for somebody to do, and I have to sometimes let some of that stuff in and go. I know I'm impacting. Like I know.
Right, cool. That's my question.
Yeah.
Do you let it in? Do you let
it's
that?
It's really hard. You know, like I had...
Without it hitting your ego. I don't know. I've made me talk about myself there, but I'm just like...
No, but it is. It's like... I feel like I've got to be really... I've got to get the balance. Like I find that growing up on TV made me want to play small because I didn't want to be... I didn't want to be different, and everyone would, you know, I grew up with a generation of people going, she fucking loves herself. Yeah. And I was scared.
I probably still get that now.
But do you know what I did this time, right? So you probably know this, the big massive fucking billboard in Manchester, right? Isn't it? So I got that as a statement because I was like, I'm not going to play fucking small so you're comfortable with it. So I'm going to write a book about confidence and have it on the second biggest billboard in Europe. And it's going to be fucking massive. And that is for little me, Holly, who went to school and everyone went, who do you think you are? You got 100 quid for your dinner money. And I spent years going, I best play small so you don't feel uncomfortable about your own stuff. No, I'll help you to do it if you're uncomfortable.
I think I've got a bit of that going on, you know.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I've got a bit of that going on.
My friend's got a podcast called She Loves Herself, right? And it's such a, because she was so, clever. Because so many people, and we take that back, reframe that. I do love myself. Yeah. And I also love loads of people. And I want you all to succeed and do well. My success, your success, doesn't diminish other people's. Yeah. There's enough to go around. We'll be all right. And we can all have a big fucking bill.
I'm going to sit on that in my next meditation, you know, about me loving myself. Yeah. And I do love myself. And there's fuck all wrong with that.
No, it's a good thing. It's not easy to combine.
Because he had on my Instagram Tim Marner, the man himself, at one point.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did that feel uncomfortable though?
It did at the time.
Yeah.
And then I've changed it because like a LinkedIn specialist friend of mine, you need to change it to that. But you know what? I'm going to change it back now.
Do it. Sit with it.
Yeah, I'm going to sit with it. Beautiful. If I'm taking anything from this, I'm taking that from it. Because it hit me in the fucking like,
work to do. That's just a little saying, isn't
bastard.
it? There's work to do.
Brilliant.
Love it. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, Holly. Honestly, mate. Honestly.
I've loved this
I'm absolutely buzzing with it.
Me too. I've loved it. It's good.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Goodbye.
Tim Marner, what? You're branded with the best. Tim